Hello, everyone. Hello there.
Hi.
Are we on? Is everyone off of mute or on mute, or how are we? Our speakers are off of mute. You can unmute yourselves, our speakers, and eventually everyone will get unmuted. Welcome, welcome. Like, what an absolute privilege to have you guys here. John, are you here? Can we see a little shout out? John, Asma.
Good morning, everyone.
Good evening for us, John. What a pleasure. So everyone who is on here, what a privilege. We have, if you're here for this first event, if you're here for both events, we have 2 hours of like packed, an exciting time. John, we know you have to leave promptly at 7:30, so we'll get started, right away. So everyone, we have honored to have Asma, Senior Manager of Innovation at Accenture. Asma, give everyone a shout out. Where are you?
Hey everyone, very happy to be here and great to meet all of you virtually.
There you are, Asma. Can we see that face? Where are you? Let's pin Asma.
Here. I'm here with the Simpson background.
Okay, so Asma just got pinned. There we go. And let us find now, where is John? John, where are you?
Here I am. I don't have as good of a background as Asma, though.
There's not a background competition, John. Can someone on the team please, who is a host, pin John, so John can join Asma in the center. And then we have also, and please make sure I'm pronouncing it correct, Richa. Yeah,
Richa. Like you want to be really rich, Richa.
Okay, so I just pinned also Richa and John. So let's get started in this fun-packed hour. But the first thing I need to ask everyone on here is a really simple question. Everybody turn off their videos very quick, and I only want people who put pineapple on their pizza to turn on their video. Are you ready? Turn off your videos and only those who put pineapple. Let us see who are those pineapple people on their pizza. Wow, we have many of you who put pineapple on your pizza. Oh my gosh. Okay, next question. We're just checking a poll. This is very serious questions about who we have in the room. The next one. Who is Eminem and who is Snoop Dogg? Now, only Snoop Dogg have your video on. Only Snoop Dogg have your video on. Okay, I have to admit, I'm like a Snoop Dogg fan also. John, you're a Snoop Dogg also. Wonderful. Okay, the last one before we get into serious, another really important one. All the dog people, turn your videos off. Only cat people in the room. Only cat people in the room. Oh, wow. We have several of you. Only cat people in the room. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. So let's get started. So here's what's going to happen, everyone, over the next hour. And you're going to get opportunities to meet each other, go into breakout rooms, but we're really unpacking, and I call it unpacking because I really want us to have the conversations that we generally do not have. And when we talk often about women rising, we have very fluffy conversations, and it seems to be the same conversations over and over, and it seems to not have a lot of men in the room in the conversations, and that's the reason why we have men in the room. We have John on the panel. and really want to unpack and be very vulnerable about this topic, because that's the great thing about the GLEAC community, is we really get to share in very unique ways, and it's a very international room, our perspectives on this particular topic. So the first 3 questions that I'm going to ask, each of the panelists can grab it and take it and add to each other. And then after that, we are going to go into a breakout room with each one of the panelists. You're going to get to know them a little better and tackle one of the questions. Then we're going to come back and we're going to start unpacking again with a fast session. So the first question that we're going to tackle. So we have, as you know, Asma, we have Richa, thank God you told me that. And we have John, So question number 1 about how women rise. And this question really surprised me about a lot of the CEO executive women I have talked to, because there's like this hidden conversation. And I want us to unpack that conversation. So nobody talks about this very taboo topic of stay-at-home dads. And what actually is a stay-at-home dad? I want you guys to kind of talk about that, because we have a version of that in our minds from television, but there are many different forms of that. Please share your views on this as it relates to how women rise. And I would love to start tackling that topic, Asma.
Hey.
Yeah.
It's definitely an interesting one, because it comes with so much nuances. It's not just, a gender issue, it's a cultural issue. So many things to unpack here. I would say that I'd like to take a step back and maybe figure out, the whole concept of stay-at-home dads versus mothers who are working and taking care of their kids. And I think largely it's based on this premise, right? Is that whoever is the primary caregiver will have their careers impacted. And just generally, because you want to take care of your child, you want to give them all the attention. So for me, yes, it's easier to say that, if you've got stay-at-home dads or more stay-at-home dads or fathers who are more supportive, right? It gives women the chance, the opportunity, and the space to really figure out and focus a lot more on their work. But is that a sustainable model? Right? I mean, we cannot just expect all men to be stay-at-home dads. So from that perspective, yeah, the easy answer is, we need to figure out who the primary caregiver is. But I would like to step back and look at other family models as well, right? Because in my scenario, my husband, right, my partner is also equally ambitious as I am. And in our situation, we came to a fact that we're gonna get a nanny to support us, right? But that also means giving up a lot of your traditional views of what parenthood is. So essentially, we are reliant on our nanny, who's amazing, and it's almost as if we've got 3 parents. So you need to step back and look at it. I think another thing that doesn't really get spoken about a lot is just the cultural nuances. It's in my culture, where I'm coming from, right, Pakistan, it's the concept of stay-at-home dad is not acceptable. It's generally, there's a lot of baggage that comes with it, right? So as a woman, you essentially end up struggling in your career, taking care of your husband. And from the man perspective as well, is that if they want to be stay-at-home dad, they need to figure out how to address that societal expectation as well, So again, a lot of things that we need to figure out. But the last thing I'll also say, when we talk about family models and we talk about expectation with stay-at-home dad, is why is it that the primary caregiver needs to have their career impacted? Why are we working in a culture where when you rise in senior management position, the expectation is to just give up everything, the work-life balance? Why do we expect certain kind of commitments? So we need to look at it from that organizational model of expectations as well. So I just threw a lot of content about my views at you.
Okay, what about you, John? We're gonna have you talk about it. What do you think of that whole thing about stay-at-home dads? And certainly you're giving us an American perspective also, right?
Yes. So I think, first off, I'm here to learn, right? So I
Yeah.
wanted to participate in this to actually hear kind of a really diverse set of views about these issues. So I appreciate you having me on. And it's funny, as Asma was talking, I was actually thinking the same thing about, why do either have to give up? And what's interesting is the pandemic has really kind of changed the frame of what stay-at-home is. And I'm sure this will come out throughout the conversation. But when I saw the question, what I thought about was actually how we ensure that the reason why I would say yes to the question is because I think there's a little bit more empathy that we could all benefit from. So if more men had the experience that women have had with stay-at-home and how it impacts, as Asma is saying, the career, I think that more men would appreciate it. And I think we would have a lot of the issues that we would talk about pay equality and other issues that we see. I think if more men had been in that position, then we would figure out more ways to address it and be more creative about how we address it. But also, I think we would have more empathy towards people. I think what has happened with the pandemic is that we've seen, and we'll talk about this more with some of the other questions, but we've seen into people's home lives, our colleagues' home lives, probably in ways that we never would have before. And I guess the discussion for today is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? Well, at least it actually gives us a sense of understanding of one another. And from that, I think we can benefit. So my answer to this one is yes, but it is in order to make more people aware of what others, the challenges and obstacles that others face.
And what about you? Hold on, Richa.
You'll get a hang of it by the end of the session.
I'm like so inclined to say something else, but Richa, tell me what is how do you feel
Hopefully
about
that
this?
you get back to this mindset that you want to be rich, richer.
Yeah.
You want to be rich.
Yes.
Well, again, similar to John, I want to first thank you for inviting me on this panel, and it's a great opportunity to share my views with such a diverse group that we have here. I was reading through the chat. We have folks from Vienna joining us, certainly from Dubai. I'm here in Canada. We have folks from America, all over. So very, very exciting group here, and then also a very exciting topic. As I was listening to Asma and John, there were two thoughts that were coming to my head about this whole discussion around what stay-at-home really means and what really it means in this current context where it's more and more becoming a creator economy, gig economy. There's diversified, what having a career means is so diversified now, it's so open now than what traditionally it has meant, right? Being successful in your careers. So the two thoughts that I would share here is, the first is just this question that is stay at home synonymous with primary caregiver? So being stay at home, does it automatically mean that you're also the primary caregiver? And that's not always necessary. In the case of women, when they are stay at homes, that is largely true. But in case of men, is it true as well that you are taking that mental burden that comes along with managing a household, managing parenting? There's so much more than just doing chores at home. There's also this mental load that at least I constantly deal with, which is around figuring out doctor's appointments and birthday parties and all of these other things, just unsaid labor, right? And when men are stay at home, do they think equally about it? I don't know the answer. My husband is not a stay at home dad, but he's most certainly is an equal partner at home. That's the only reason why I work full time, why I do my business, why I attend things like this, is because we have equal partnership that is brewing up at home, right? So this is one question I think that warrants more thought around, is stay at home really synonymous with being the primary caregiver? And the second thought is around what I mentioned before, that what career success means has been changing, and it's changing very, very fast in the last 2 years, especially as pandemic has opened doors for more people to work from home. It has opened doors for people to pick up alternate careers around creator economy and online businesses, and then making just a lifestyle. It's like having a lifestyle for themselves where they're being able to be more immersive in their family and parenthood if you have kids, but then also define for yourself what a successful career means, right? So my answer is, I think if I have to pick a yes or a no for whether we need more stay-at-home dads, I don't know. Like, that's a bad answer. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say yes, but I do think that we have to look at like what really this means and how we can redefine what stay at home really actually means.
Okay. I think there's a clear difference with the answer. Would you agree, pre-pandemic versus post-pandemic?
Yeah, I would say so.
There's a very clean-cut difference with that, right? Which really says to you how much that has blurred the edges on our work lives and in terms of our personal lives. Okay, so are you guys ready? I'm going to ask the most uncomfortable question of the entire session. Are you ready for it, guys? Yes? So, yes, okay. So about 90% of C-suite level, at the C-suite level are males. About 70% of entrepreneurs are males. Just based on pure math, it would seem that for a woman to rise, she will need the sponsorship or the assistance of males, since they tend to be the ones in positions of whether it is management and power. How do you think the Me Too movement has set back how quickly women will be able to rise just because of a lot of the innuendos? Or do you think it's set back how quickly women will rise, since there is this absolute, connection between women rising and the assistance of men in them rising? I'm going to have John, you're going to take it first. You're going to get the hot seat first.
I was going to say, it makes sense, right? Well, one, I mean, and I think we get some audience reaction to this one. I don't think I don't think women necessarily need men to rise. I think that should be clear. But I think that men in positions of authority have an opportunity to make sure that their offices, their teams are made up of the right balance of women and men. So for me, just in my office, thinking of the team members in our senior staff, right? So we're an office of about 100 people. There's about 10 of us that get together weekly to talk over our issues. And when I think about that room, it's 4 men and 6 women, right? And that actually has some intentionality when my chief of staff, who's a woman, and I think about, adding team members and when we have openings, to make sure that we have a good balance. And if we weight it a little bit more towards women being in those positions, then I think that's a good thing. I think it also helps us, again, and I'll keep talking about the empathy side of this, but I think it gives us a chance to understand it. If we all kind of sit in a room together and we all look the same and we all have the same thinking, then it's not really going to advance our team as far as we can if we have a diverse set of views in the room. So for me, I think actually that women have the ability to do whatever they need. They don't need to, it seemed like the question was about whether men empower women, which I thought was a little bit odd. I think that for men, what our role is when we have the opportunity to create, not to be redundant, but opportunities, that we make sure that that women have the shot at it. And that's kind of how we've operated in my office, and I think we're better off because of it.
So before the ladies answer, I'm going to ask a question, because I think, John, this might be an eye-opener for you. How many women in the room, who have gotten opportunities, would say the majority of them have come from men? Raise your hand. Every single female in the room, John. So that, that really tells you a lot about when you say, and this is where I love the diversity in thought, because when we say women actually need male sponsors to rise, you just got an indication of that, very, very clearly, certainly in this part of the world, right? Or we have other parts of the world, but I think every single female raised her hand on that one. Asma, how do you feel about do you think the Me Too movement has really set back opportunities for females, or have you come across any instances where you felt, it propelled it forward or it set it back a little bit?
I'll take those questions in two parts, the Me Too movement, but also I'd like to address, the role of men in the progress of women. So in my personal experience, and after the Me Too, while the movement is going on, the conversations that I've had with men, and maybe it's the men that I know, my experience has been that the Me Too movement was an eye-opener for a lot of them. Eye-opener in the sense that they began to really understand the unconscious biases that they used to work with. The language that they used to say, they didn't realize the impact it would have if it had innuendos, right? So a lot of them used to take their behaviors for granted. And what the Me Too movement, the part that I've realized has done to a lot of men is that it's made them sit up and see the kind of behaviors that were right and wrong and the kind of impact it had with women. So I think, again, there are different kinds of men, but I think that from that perspective, it has been good in terms of educating a lot of men or what are the good practices and what are the things that need to be cognizant of. Because I think unconscious bias is one of the things that we largely as women face, and it hinders progress a lot. So that's one part. And the other one, right, I wanted to address was the role of men in the progress of women. And you just asked us how many of us had the opportunity because of a man. And most of us did, because largely the deck of cards has been stacked against us. The conversations around diversity and the role of women in top leadership positions has been going on for a while, but it has been a very slow growth, right? So you have men in these echelons of power that have the decision-making power, right? Who goes up, who doesn't, and either they make gender-based decisions or the biases come in play. But another aspect is that the way this world is designed, and I'm going back to a talk I had two weeks back. I was speaking to this group of data science women, right? And we were talking about how this world has been designed for men by men. And that's another challenge us women have to face, right? Simple things like the way the workforce is set up or the hours are set up, they're not designed for women. Even if you look at the temperature of the room in an office, that's not designed for women. The metro system in major cities, it's not designed, it's created for men by men. So you have a lot of hurdles, and this is why it is important. And a certain aspect, we need men to be conscious of the responsibility they have in making sure that women are a part of that conversation and in their leadership table.
Okay.
But yes, I do agree with John that we women do not need men in, just rising. But,
all right. I'm going to just have a quick response from Richa, and then I'm going to send you to breakout rooms. Ankita, could you please post the questions, the 3 questions in the chat? That will go to the breakout room. Richa, what would you like to add to that conversation?
Yeah, I was listening to Asma and John, and for me, like, I have had 12 managers so far in my career, of which 10 were men. And every single opportunity to move up came from like men, right? And also from women, the 2 women managers that I've had, but like also largely from men, just simply because I worked in the oil and gas industry for 10 years in my career. Now I work in tech. Like, that's unfortunately, or for whatever reason, is now still dominated by men at the top. So we do like need men to some extent to help pull us up, and we need conversations like this where men are actually allies and part of the conversation to changing the world, to changing how workplaces look. So in my opinion, yes, men still play a large role in helping women rise. I think women need both women and men. They basically need sponsors at the senior levels to pull them up, to help them rise. That's most certainly how I have risen my career. And for me, I feel like the Me Too movement, I completely agree with Asma where she mentions the Me Too movement has been an eye-opener to men in some sort of, in regards to the language that they unconsciously used, like belittling words and so on, that I've most certainly heard in my career as well. But I feel it's also a setback for women because Me Too movement has made it harder to receive candid feedback. because, you know, more men are afraid that women would break down or get emotional if they get feedback, and candid feedback is really the most important thing that you need to continually improve yourself and grow in your careers. So it's up to us women to ask for that feedback, like connect with our male sponsors in places where it's comfortable setting for both themselves and us, ask for that feedback, take that well, and continue to encourage them to give you that feedback and give you that sponsorship to rise in your careers.
Okay, so now we're going, thank you guys for that. We're going to do a quick breakout room, just because I'm mindful of John's time. It's going to be 8 minutes. You're going to go into these breakout rooms. The room is going to, everyone is going to be divided up equally in 3 parts. And Asma, take a look. I'm going to read your questions. Your questions also should be posted in chat, but let me just go over them and the questions you're going to handle. And Asma, you're not going to be the only one speaking. Get to know your group and let everyone please chime in as you get to know each other. How has women rising in the workplace, hold on, movement impacted the lives of children compared to your parents and grandparents? How can we tackle society's negative impact on outcomes for working women, right? Number 2, Richa, your room. If you had to ask so far in your career, who has helped you rise, is it mostly males or females, and share those stories, right? So I want you to start sharing those stories. We asked that before. And John, this would be for you. So Asma, you're tackling the children, the impact on children on this. Richa, you're tackling whether it's male or women who has helped you rise. John, you're going to tackle, and you know, this might come across certainly from your work, you know, because of the disruptions caused of the pandemic and the rise of remote work. Now is the time to make workplace practices, policies, and culture more welcoming. Talk to us about what opportunities you see for how this could remove barriers to women's leadership and how employers should be approaching this unique time. Okay, so 8 minutes on these questions. Look in the chat if you forget the questions. Can you send us to breakout rooms, please, Ankita?
Yes.
I see that you're back. Did any fights break out in any room?
Well, we were having very interesting debates on things, so I love that session. Thank you.
Any fights break out in your room, John?
No, we were, the only fight was that you drove us back into the main room so quickly.
Yeah, that's true.
We threw you back. Okay. Well, you know that you told me you had a hard stop, right? So that's,
I know.
Yes, yes. So what were, if I had to say, what was one of the main insights that you unpacked with your room? What would it be?
So jumping in, I think the big thing was, we talked about the impacts of the pandemic on and how we use it as an opportunity. The hard part, I think, where we were, I'm glad almost that time ran out because we got to the really hard question, which is for jobs where you do have to show up, how do we find some benefit for those workers too? Because I think for all of us, what was actually shocking was that today, all of us are joining you. None of us is in an office. I'm in a hotel, I'm traveling, and everybody else is in some other setting than an office. So it's almost a luxury for us that we don't have to go to the office, that we can work from anywhere. And Jacob talked about, you know, what is work now. That's kind of changed the whole dynamic. But then for us in Washington, D.C., what we see is a lot of our essential workers are women who are heads of household. So how do we actually make sure that some of the opportunity and the benefits of what we've seen in more flexible work in the pandemic, how do we actually make sure that they get to realize the benefit of that as well? So we left it with an open question. It was almost good that time ran out because I don't know that we had the solution, but at the same time, it was a good conversation to be had.
Okay, 1 minute, Asma, you unpack yours, and then I know, John, you have to drop off at 7:30, so then we'll give you a goodbye, but we'll continue, right? Asma, how would you unpack?
Well, John, you unpacked a lot, but I'll try to. We had a very interesting conversation, just generally, right? And we had a lot of speakers come in, participants, and there were a lot of, I would say, anecdotal validations on, if you are a working mother, the kind of positive impact it has on your kids in terms of their value system and for terms of their confidence, and just generally the kind of well-rounded individuals, the kids turn out to be. And I think that we were just on the verge of having that conversation. Should we even care about what society thinks? And I think this is where we were unable to really dwell deep in that question. But I think generally it would be something more to explore, right? That when is that time when you actually say, stop, I need to look out for myself and my family first.
Okay, all right. So different questions, guys. John was about the workplace. Yeah, Asma was a completely different question with a room. And you guys are going to get thrown back into rooms shortly. And Risha, 1 minute, very quickly, unpacking your session, which was it male or females, right? We started kind of a little bit with that question. You're on mute, Richa. Richa.
Yeah, we had a mixed group. Like, so some of our participants had benefited from their, like, male senior counterparts, some from their female colleagues, and we talked a little bit about how there may be differences between which industry you come from. So if somebody is coming from traditionally like male-dominated industry, you obviously have more male colleagues and sponsors, versus somebody who's coming from an HR recruitment kind of background may have more female colleagues by default. And so how that's different. And then we also kind of talked about how the feedback that we receive from male and female colleagues may differ as well, where like women focusing a lot more on empathy and giving like emotions and giving of all-rounded feedback, versus males sometimes they would just give dry cut feedback, like straight to the point, which is also useful and necessary, but there's just differences in the way you receive feedback from the different genders.
So John, this is how we send people off from our community. We blow kisses at them. So everyone, John has to leave at 7:30. We're going to continue our conversations in our breakout room. So everyone, can we blow some kisses to John, please? John, thank you wholeheartedly for joining us. Everyone, I will tell you a funny story about how I met John. John was visiting Abu Dhabi for the US government, and they came with the guy from Shark Tank, you know, the one, Mr. Wonderful, and John got paired with me to pitch GLEAC to him. So John became GLEAC Mafia completely by default, and he pitched, and guess what? We got a 10 out of a 10. Right, John? You remember that?
I do remember that. I do. It was all your idea. It was all your idea. It was all your coaching that got me there. So
listen,
I appreciate it.
So thank you for joining us so wholeheartedly, so much, John.
Absolutely. And I look forward to joining another session. And also, as folks get on the road again, if you're ever in Washington, D.C., look me up. My email is very easy. It's just john@dc.gov. So feel free to drop me a note.
Perfect. Bye, John.
Thank you.
No problem.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye, John.
So since you guys are enjoying so much those sessions in terms of breakout rooms, I'm going to give you 2 more questions, and we're dropping you into a breakout room, another 8 minutes. Here is the question, right? I don't know who wants to take which question. First question is, what programs in your workplace have you witnessed not work on getting women into leadership roles, and why have they failed? Question number 1. Question number 2, let's talk about the guilt associated for career women and rising. Who wants to take what question? Asma, Risha, I'm going to give you a wild card question. What attitude does a woman need to bring into the workplace to rise? Does she have to leave her femininity at the door?
I can take the wild card question.
The wild card? She's like, I want the wild card question. Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay, Asma.
I'll take
can
the
give
second one because I just joined Accenture, so I think I don't have a lot of visibility on their program. So I'll take the second one.
Which is the one on let's talk about the guilt associated?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can
perfect.
we write the question in
Yeah,
the
we will. I will write it down and we'll put it in the chat for you. And can we send everyone to a breakout room in 2 parts, Ankita? So this, are we back?
We are back.
Yeah. We're back. So I'm going to ask a really difficult question to everyone in the room. How many of you in the room has ever hired a female for a role? Yeah, everyone has raised their hand. How many of you in negotiating with the female have considered where her husband works and how much he might be making?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
How many of you have considered, if that female is married, where her husband is working and whether there's a double income in the household or not in negotiating the salary for the female? Neha, are you saying something? Nobody? How many of you think you've unconsciously considered it's a double income household in negotiating with a female? Anyone?
No.
No?
I
Okay.
haven't.
Okay, all right. I will say to you, I want you to think about that question a little bit more, even after this session. I want you all to think about it. It's one of those unconscious things that is there for many of us. What did you guys get out of your session in your rooms? Any feedback? You can unmute yourselves. Any feedback from your sessions in your rooms? Richa? Richa.
I mean, for us, we talked about how we need to start kind of moving away from like questioning again and again why gender gaps exist, to start talking about, you know, I'm going to use the word again, solutioning, to how you start thinking about how to put the right person in the leadership role. So not just how do you put the women in the leadership role or a man in leadership role, but how, when you continue to use these terms, you are continuing to perpetuate the question, the issue that exists, but start moving towards solution and start thinking about how do we start putting the right person in leadership roles and what needs to happen for that, right? And then maybe certain different things need to happen for different genders to make that happen. But again, the solution is how do you start putting the right person and start moving that towards that thought, moving away from the victim mentality that I'm picking up from Cecilia here, which I think is absolutely correct.
Okay, and what about you, Asma? What about your room and your conversation about guilt?
Largely our conversation regarding guilt was just how influential society and expectations are. I mean, even if you're a woman who doesn't feel the guilt, you automatically feel the need, you know? So we were starting to really have that conversation on how important it is really for a woman to have that resilience to kind of reject societal expectations. And that is one of the core things, but it also goes from the other end as well, right? Is that how do you manage it and how do you tackle it? We had a couple of very interesting conversations from the men in our group as well on their experience with the family members, the women leaders that they've got, just in terms of what is the demand, how does it actually impact the woman as well? And again, it brings the whole point of view on resilience. And we also started to really unpack on, you know, how and why men need to look at diversity in their hiring and why it's so important. So we went on a couple of different directions, but all of them really contributed to the conversation. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to end in this really important question. How many women, or how many of us in the room, I won't say women, know that we can negotiate harder for ourselves, whether it be in salary, whether it be in situations? How many of us know for a fact we can negotiate harder for ourselves? Okay, am I seeing any of the guys? Okay, I see Jacob with his hand up. Where are all the guys? Like, why is your camera off? Philip, is that a yes?
Yes, it's a yes.
It's a yes, Philip. Okay, all right. So, you know, I want to throw that out there, and I'm going to end it on this note. First of all, wholeheartedly, for those of you staying for NFTs, we start in 12 minutes, you know, exciting talk. I do want to share with all of you right now at GLEAC, we have a gift of mentorship for up to 10 women in your organization. If any of you are interested in your organizations having women be part of 2 weeks of mentorship on GLEAC, Ankita, you can post a link. Please sign up for the women in your organization. You know, it's super important. And I will, you know, kind of end on this note when it comes to negotiation and salary. You know, one of the reasons why most women take longer to rise is because we do not negotiate well, starting with our very first salary, right? And it's a simple law of math. It's called compound interest, right? It's really a simple law of math. And I'm not talking about, you know, if I were to ask, you know, and I just wrote an article about this the other day and I got asked, right? I was in a conversation, you know, and I can share this very vulnerably. I was in a conversation with the PIF fund. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with the PIF fund in Saudi. It's one of the biggest funds in the world. And someone said to me, okay, give me a number. What's your worth? On the spot. And, you know, I consider myself to be a very empowered female. And I hesitated. Right? You know, I hesitated because there is so many emotions, I think, certainly I can tell you for me as a female, attached to just throwing out a number. And immediately I thought of, well, it's a scorecard. It's not just about money. It's just, you know, and you come, you know, there's all of these things that go through your head, certainly for me, you know, and I'm sharing this with the women and the men in the room. And it was another woman on the other side, which I loved, who asked the question. And the other woman on the other side says, you know, and I just so happened that week also went to a talk from FBI negotiator, for, another female. And she said, it's just a need. She goes, the answer to that question is a really simple answer. What's your need at that moment? If your need at that moment is $10 million to scale GLEAC, the answer is $10 million. If the need at that moment is $60,000 to cover your salary or your home because you're the main breadwinner, that's the number. And I want to say that particularly to all the women in the room. You have to know, you know, that's a great practice of just being able to go, how do I answer that question if somebody says, what's my number? How do you answer that question and not have any qualms about it? Someone said, and we associate the qualms with it, right? Where someone is just saying, I want you to, if I wanted your talent and I'm going to stop you from doing all the other things that you're going to do, what is that number? So I would say, and I would dare all of you, even the men in the room, I'm going to end by going, can you please put in chat, what's your number? Right now. What's your number? In chat right now. Let's go. That's how we're ending tonight. What's your number? And I want you to think about what that FBI negotiator person said to me. It's different for everyone and it's based on your need at this moment in time. And that need can be for a finite moment. My number is X for the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. I just gave you guys a lot of hints how to come up with your number. Let's go, guys. We're ending. What's your number? Type it in chat. Okay, there we go. IPEC, you started off good. My number for this year. I like that. Finite period, clear number. What's your number, guys? Let's go. There you go. Some of you are still hesitating to give me your worth in numbers. Do you see that?
Hi.
Hi, Carmen. Hold
Hi,
on. Carmen.
Samiran. How are you?
I'm
to
good.
see
Carmen,
you.
we're-
Wow, so many people.
Yeah, we're finishing up the session before your session. Your session starts 8 o'clock. So everyone is typing in what's their number. Kishan, yes, it's my Trinidadian music.
This is what I thought I heard. It's carnival time. I thought I heard.
I have a very eclectic music taste. Yes, my number. Okay, there you go. Okay, Cecilia, you have your number. Okay, and for those of you who have already put in your number and you're waiting for the next event, Ankita is going to put in a Trustpilot link. If you can give a little bit of feedback to your speakers, speak directly to your speakers on your panel in terms of their insights, that would be really great if you can give them that, that feedback. And for the rest of you, we start in exactly 5 minutes. Ankita, did you post for everyone where they can sign up for their 10 team members for gift of mentorship? Maybe we can
post that
yeah,
again.
maybe if we can post it again. So for those of you who want to sign up for your team members, and we start in about, I would say about 5 to 10 minutes on for the other event. So you can stay on, that event is oversubscribed. So you can stay on, turn your video, fill out some Trustpilot and listen to some good music. Okay. All right, I'm turning off for 5 minutes.
It's actually amazing to see all the old and the new faces. So all the new ones who are attending our event for the first time, if y'all are not yet a part of our mentor community, I would really like you all to join it. I'm also sharing a link for the same. We would love to have you on board. Thank you so much, Richa.
Thank you, everyone. It was such an exciting conversation. Thank you, Salian, and the rest of the team.
For those of you not staying, Richa and Asma, wholeheartedly, I got pictures of everyone, wholeheartedly, guys, let's blow her some kisses.
And Asma, we should connect offline. I'm gonna send you a note.
I think so, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Richa.
Bye.
Bye. We start in about 7 minutes, everyone.